Seduction is not loud. It doesn't announce itself like a storm breaking the sky. Instead, it's a whisper in the dark, a gaze that lingers for a second too long, a touch that feels both accidental and intentional at the same time. But here's the question. Did you even know if a woman is trying to seduce you? Or would you ignore it, convinced that it's all in your head? Seduction is an art as old as time, and women have perfected it in ways that men often don't notice. Scientists who study body language suggest that more than 90% of human communication is nonverbal. This means that seduction doesn't happen with words. It happens in the spaces between them. So, if a woman is trying to catch you in her web, she won't tell you directly. She'll make you feel it. If you've ever had that strange feeling that a woman is playing with you, but you can't quite put your finger on it, pay attention. Here are 8 clear signs that she's trying to seduce you. Sign 1. The lingering eyes technique. A woman's eyes are the first clue to her intentions. If she's trying to seduce you, her gaze won't be casual. It will fixate on you and remain there. There is something ancient about the way attraction works through eye contact. Studies in psychology and human attraction show that prolonged eye contact releases phenylethylamine, PEA, a chemical linked to feelings of infatuation. Have you ever felt an inexplicable attraction to someone after they held your gaze just a little too long? That's the power of lingering eyes. But here's the interesting part. There's a difference between eye contact and seduction. Casual eye contact happens in passing. She looks, then looks away. Seductive eye contact is different. It's intentional. She holds your gaze for a second longer than she should. And when she finally looks away, she does it slowly, as if savoring the moment. And then there's the classic test. Does she keep making eye contact with you across the room? A woman who's trying to seduce you will create an invisible string between your gazes, making the rest of the world fade away. And if she combines it with a slight smile, one that hints at something unspoken, consider yourself officially in the game. Sign 2. Her touch is accidental, but it's never really accidental. A brush of her fingers. A hand on your shoulder that lingers a little longer than usual. Her knee accidentally pressing against yours under the table. Seduction lies in the details, and touch is the oldest trick in the book. Women know this instinctively. If she's trying to seduce you, she won't just use words, she'll let her body do the talking. Here's the trick. Most men dismiss these touches as accidental. But let me ask you this. How often do you accidentally touch someone you're not attracted to? Sign 3. Her voice softens and slows down. Most people think seduction is only about looks, but they're missing one of the biggest tools, the voice. A woman trying to seduce you will change the way she speaks when she's near you. If you pay attention, you'll notice her tone is softer, more intimate. Her rhythm slows down, as if savoring each word. Her voice lowers, becoming more sensual. There comes a point when a man doesn't chase anymore, not out of pride, but out of peace. Sometimes she lets you go, thinking you'll be stuck in emotional limbo, checking on her, reminiscing, maybe waiting for her to come back. But when you don't, when you let go too, that's when it hits her differently. This is what this video is about. The quiet power of a man who walks away with grace, not games. The kind of strength that Stoic philosophy teaches. Not to escape emotion, but to master it. Let's talk about what really happens when you let go and why it changes everything. Number 1, she thought you'd wait. She assumed you'd stay emotionally available even after she ended things. Maybe you wouldn't text every day, but you'd still be watching her stories, liking a post here and there, responding if she reached out. She thought you'd remain emotionally parked just outside her life, waiting for an opening. But you didn't. You respected her decision. You didn't resist. You didn't plead. You didn't try to convince her to change her mind. You simply accepted it, not out of weakness, but out of inner strength. This is Stoicism in action, understanding what's in your control and calmly releasing what's not. She ended it, you let it end. Most men try to hold on, even subtly, just to keep a thread of connection alive. They answer late-night texts. They watch every story, hoping she'll notice. They stay emotionally available even when she's no longer emotionally committed. But not you. You didn't leave the door half open. You closed it gently, quietly, fully. That's what startled her, because she didn't expect you to let go. She expected distance, but not disappearance. Silence, but not stillness.
Detachment, but not discipline.
She underestimated your ability to move on without bitterness. And that calm detachment? That's rare. That's powerful. Let me give you an example. A guy named Leo got dumped by someone he truly cared about. She told him, "I need space." So he gave her space, more than she expected. He didn't text her back, didn't watch her stories, didn't try to meet her halfway. Weeks later, she messaged him, "I thought we could still be friends." Leo didn't even get emotional. He simply replied, "I respect your decision, and I'm moving forward with mine." That one sentence hit her harder than 1,000 words could have.
Why?
Because Leo showed emotional control. He didn't try to get her back. He reclaimed his peace. That's what Stoics do. We don't beg for love. We don't chase ghosts. We focus on what's real. And if someone chooses to walk away, we let them. Now, she's the one wondering, what happened to the version of you who'd always be there? She checks her phone more often than she admits. She scrolls to see if you've watched her stories. She starts to feel the discomfort of your absence. Because she thought you'd be waiting, and now she realizes you're not.
You didn't just walk away.
You evolved. You didn't disappear to hurt her. You disappeared to heal yourself. And in that silence, she feels your strength louder than any words you could have spoken. Existed in the best moments you stood firm. You saw it for what it truly was. Good, yes, but also flawed, imperfect, incomplete. The Stoics have a name for that kind of clarity. Amor fati. It means love of fate. Not just accepting what happens, but embracing it. Even the painful parts. Even the moments that crack your chest open. Because pain teaches. It sharpens you. And when you live with that kind of acceptance, you stop resisting life. You stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" And instead begin asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" You didn't sugarcoat the ending. You didn't try to repaint it with colors that weren't true. You respected it. You respected yourself enough not to dwell in illusions. That emotional honesty, that willingness to feel everything without getting consumed by it, that's what gave you the strength to move forward without getting trapped in a loop of what-ifs and what used to be. It's easy to romanticize the past when you're standing in the pain of the present, but you chose something different. You chose reality over fantasy, truth over comfort, and that kind of choice, that's the beginning of real healing. Because the truth is, growth doesn't always feel good. Closure isn't always pretty. But when you choose to love your fate, even when it doesn't make sense, even when it hurts, you step into something powerful. You stop being a prisoner of the past and start becoming the architect of your future. So keep going. Keep your heart open, but your eyes clear. The strength you showed in letting go, that's what makes you unshakable. Number 6. You turn the pain into power. Rejection hurts. No man is immune to that, but instead of numbing the pain or drowning in it, you used it. You turned it into fuel. You trained harder. You focused more. You leveled up quietly, and that's what separates men who grow from men who crumble. Most people treat rejection like a wall, something they crash into. But you treated it like a mirror, a moment of reflection. You didn't run from the sting. You didn't distract yourself with meaningless hookups or drown your thoughts in alcohol or noise. You sat with the pain. You let it speak, and in that silence, you listened, not to the world, not to her, but to yourself. The Stoics believed that every hardship is an opportunity. Seneca said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." That heartbreak, that cold silence she left you in, it was your training ground. It was the gym for your soul. You didn't beg for closure. You became the closure you didn't ask for. You didn't ask for validation. You earned it from within. You started showing up differently, not to prove anything to her, but because you had something to prove to yourself. You became more intentional. You stopped wasting time on people who were never really for you. Your focus sharpened. Your presence deepened. Slowly, piece by piece, you started rebuilding, but this time as the man you were meant to be. And here's the part she didn't expect. She thought you'd be emotionally wrecked. She thought you'd break. Maybe she thought she'd keep living in your head rent-free. But instead, you went silent, not out of bitterness, but out of discipline. You didn't disappear to get her attention. You disappeared to get your life in order. Now, if she looks back, she sees a version of you she no longer has access to, not because you're playing games, but because you outgrew the version of yourself who chased her. You became a man of calm power. A man who values peace over chaos, purpose over drama. That transformation doesn't need to be shouted. It's felt in your energy, in your presence, in how you carry yourself. Now, rejection hurt, but you didn't let it define you. You let it refine you. Number 7. You focused on the inner citadel. Rather than seeking validation from the outside, through her attention or someone new, you turned inward. You worked on your mindset, your habits, your routines. The Stoics talked about building an inner citadel, a fortress inside you that no one can shake. That's where you went. You didn't hide. You rebuilt. I know it's tempting to chase after closure, or to keep checking if she's watching your stories, if she still cares, if she regrets. But you knew deep down that none of that would bring peace. So instead, you started asking harder questions. Who am I without her? What have I been avoiding? What kind of man do I want to become? Those questions aren't easy, but that's the exact path the Stoics point to, the path of looking within, facing discomfort, and choosing growth over distraction. You started waking up earlier, not because anyone was watching, but because discipline became your new form of self-respect. You trained your body, not for her to notice, but because it reminded you that you're still in control of something. You journaled your thoughts, tracked your triggers, started reading more, maybe even returned to old passions you had forgotten. Slowly, you realized, I am not broken. I was just misaligned. And here's the thing. When you stop orbiting around someone else's presence and instead become the center of your own world, you change the energy entirely. The more peace you find internally, the less power she is externally. Her silence? It didn't sting the same. Her distance? It became space for your growth. That shift in focus is where real healing begins. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The tranquility that comes when you stop caring what they say or think or do, only what you do." That's what you lived. You stopped performing, stopped chasing, stopped explaining yourself. You just moved forward quietly, and in that silence, you discovered your strength. You didn't need her to come back to feel whole. You came back to yourself, and that was enough. Number 8. You didn't watch her every move. No checking her Instagram stories. No late night scrolling through her posts. No subtle stalking under fake profiles. No deciphering song lyrics or overanalyzing her new selfies, wondering if they're meant for you. You let her go fully, not halfway, not with one foot in and one eye still watching. You didn't pretend it was harmless curiosity. You didn't try to convince yourself that staying aware of her life somehow meant you were just being chill. You knew better. You gave her the gift of complete distance, not out of spite, not out of bitterness, but out of self-respect. And make no mistake, that kind of detachment isn't easy. It takes courage to cut the cord quietly, to walk away without leaving a breadcrumb trail for her to follow back. As Seneca said, "He who is brave is free," and you chose freedom, not the illusion of it, the real thing. You didn't ghost her. You didn't block her in rage. You simply stepped away and refused to orbit her world any longer. Most people say they've moved on, but their behavior screams otherwise. They watch. They wait. They refresh. They're stuck in the emotional waiting room, hoping for a signal, a post, a quote, a clue, and while they convince themselves it's harmless, all they're doing is feeding old wounds, staying emotionally tied to someone who's no longer walking beside them. But you took the Stoic path. You didn't just leave physically. You released her mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. You understood what Epictetus taught. We suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgment about them. So, you stopped creating meaning out of meaningless posts. You stopped trying to decode silence or read between digital lines. You returned to yourself, to your breath, to your life. You stopped asking, "What is she doing?" and started asking, "What am I becoming?" This isn't about being cold. It's not about playing games or trying to make her wonder. It's about discipline, about putting your peace above your pride. The Stoics remind us, focus only on what you can control. You can't control if she posts a picture with someone else. You can't control her choices, her stories, or her timeline. But you can control your reaction. You can control where your attention goes. And when you choose not to look, you choose freedom. You choose strength. You choose yourself. Think about it. The moment you check her page and see something unexpected, your mind starts spinning. You start comparing, wondering, doubting. You let her energy back into your life without her saying a single word. But when you don't check, when you resist that temptation, you stay in power. You stay stoic. You stay unshaken. And here's the irony. That silence, that invisibility, it echoes. While others leave obvious trails, your absence becomes impossible to ignore. You didn't disappear to make her miss you. You just stopped needing her attention to validate your worth. And that changes the dynamic. That makes her wonder, not what you're doing, but who you're becoming. That quiet strength is rare, and it's attractive in the most unexpected way. So stay on that path, brother. Keep building your life, not in reaction to her, but in devotion to your own growth. Keep showing up for yourself, not to prove a point, but because you finally realize that you're the point. The man who can walk away and never look back, that man isn't cold. He's centered. And in a world full of people craving attention, your indifference becomes your edge. That kind of man, he's not to be played with. He's not a maybe. He's the one who got real. And eventually she'll know it too. You became the man she wasn't ready for. You didn't become bitter. You became better. You didn't allow pain to poison your spirit or rejection to warp your self-worth. Instead, you evolved. You didn't rise to prove a point to her or to show the world what it lost. You rose because your journey demanded more from you. Because life whispered, "There's more in you." And you listened. You didn't sit in resentment, repping the past like a broken record, hoping for an apology or closure that was never coming. You turned inward. You met yourself in the silence, faced the parts of you that were once afraid to be alone, and you chose a different path, the path of becoming. You raised your standards, not just in who you let into your heart, but in how you move through the world. You stopped entertaining half-efforts, lukewarm intentions, and shallow attention. You stopped trying to explain your value to people who were committed to misunderstanding it. Instead, you poured your energy into your purpose, the thing that gives your life meaning, the thing that lights you up when no one's watching. You got back in the gym, not just to build your body, but to strengthen your mind. You built discipline, not for admiration, but for inner peace, for the kind of confidence that isn't loud but unshakable. That's what Marcus Aurelius meant when he said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." You stopped chasing applause and started pursuing virtue. You became rooted in your values. Your actions grew quieter but deeper. Less for show, more for substance. You stopped chasing people who made you question your worth, and instead, you chased the man you were meant to become. Through that quiet dedication, you transformed into someone who no longer craves attention but commands respect. A man who doesn't settle for surface-level sparks, but requires a soul-level connection. Depth over drama. Truth over temptation. And maybe, just maybe, she'll look back one day. She might scroll through old photos, revisit the memory of your voice, or stumble on a reminder of what once was. But what she won't fully grasp is what she missed. Not just the man who loved her, but the man you became after her. She knew the early version of you, the man still finding his footing. But she missed the transformation, the silent stoic evolution that took place when you chose growth over grief, purpose over pain, and legacy over longing. That's the real power of healing with intention. You didn't move forward to make her jealous or spark her regret. You did it because your soul demanded it, because your higher self refused to stay in places where it no longer fit. You weren't trying to impress anyone. You were trying to ascend. And now you walk differently, not because life is perfect, but because you carry the quiet strength of a man who rebuilt. You didn't crumble under the weight of heartbreak. You rose above it. You didn't just move on. You leveled up. You became better, not bitter. And that is what makes all the difference. You let go because you loved yourself more. At the core of it all, you let go, not to punish her, not to teach her a lesson, but because you finally chose yourself. You chose your peace, your mental clarity, your self-worth. And maybe for the first time in a long time, you realized that holding on was costing you more than letting go ever would. It wasn't about ego. It wasn't about proving a point. It was about recognizing that your soul was tired of the back and forth, tired of wondering where you stood, tired of the silent battles you were fighting in your own mind while pretending everything was fine. A stoic man doesn't need to be cold to move on. He doesn't need to lash out or seek revenge. He simply steps back, reflects, and asks himself, is this still in line with who I'm becoming? And if the answer is no, he releases it, not with bitterness, but with clarity. Imagine standing at the edge of a storm. You can either keep stepping into the chaos, trying to calm it with your presence, or you can step away and walk toward the stillness that you've been craving. Letting go is choosing the stillness. There was a time you might have waited for her to change, to choose you, to show up differently. But now you understand that love should never feel like chasing. So you stopped running towards someone who kept walking away. You chose the path of self-respect, the kind that doesn't need an announcement, just action. Quiet, calm, decisive action. When a man truly begins to love himself, he no longer clings to people who confuse him. He doesn't beg for clarity. He becomes the clarity. And in that still, grounded energy, he stops being the man who waits and starts being the man who leads, first himself, then everything else. That's when he becomes unstoppable, not because he's louder, colder, or more distant, but because he's finally aligned, rooted, unshakable. And ironically, it's in that silence, in that strength, where she might feel your absence the loudest, not because you wanted to hurt her, but because you finally stopped hurting yourself. Conclusion. When you let go, not out of anger but out of self-respect, something shifts. You stop waiting. You stop chasing. And you start rising. That's not weakness. That's not bitterness. That's clarity. That's power. That's you stepping fully into the man you were meant to become. If this video resonated with you, take a moment to reflect. Ask yourself, am I holding on to something that's holding me back? And more importantly, what kind of man do I want to be on the other side of this pain? Because here's the truth. When you let go of what's no longer meant for you, you create space for what is. When you stop chasing the past, you begin building a future. And when you choose peace over pride, clarity over closure, and growth over grief, you don't just move on, you level up. This journey isn't about proving anything to her. It's about proving to yourself that you have the discipline to walk away with grace, the courage to sit with your emotions, and the wisdom to protect your energy. That's Stoicism in action. If this message hit home, let me know in the comments what part spoke to you the most. What moment in your journey made you realize it was time to choose yourself? Hit that like button if this video gave you strength. Drop a comment. Your story might help another man find his footing. And don't forget to check out the recommended videos on screen now. They dive even deeper into Stoicism, emotional mastery, and how to reclaim your power after heartbreak. Thanks for watching. Stay grounded. Stay unshakable.